Okay, everyone. It's now 12:05. It's now 12:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's still September 23rd, 2011, Friday. Kicking out an extra video blog. One, because it's Friday and this whole weekend that's coming up is going to be very interesting. And also, I'm not going to have that much time. But my hair's starting to dry up a little bit. Add some conditioner to it in a little bit. I prefer short hair right now. It's short hair is starting to kind of get in the whole way of my mission. And that's to I don't know. Having long hair right now is stressful, and my mission right now is to eliminate as much stress as I can as possible from my life. So, I did some research, as I always do, and I realized that I am part of Generation X. Okay, and according to the Wikipedia article, which I will now read to you, Generation X is the generation born after the post-World War II baby boom ended. Basically, it's the children of the baby boomers. It's also known as the baby bust generation because there's not that many of us, they say, but we're labeled as slackers, as punks, as emo, as goth, as, you know, all these different things, as ravers, as just a lot of things. The photographer by the name of Robert Capa described us, or his intention for doing a photo essay for this generation. He says, "We named this unknown generation the Generation X, and even in our first enthusiasm we realized that we had something far bigger than our talents and pockets could cope with." Author John Ulrich, he explains, since then, Generation X has always signified a group of young people seemingly without identity who face an uncertain, ill-defined, and perhaps hostile future. Subsequent appearances of the term in the mid-1960s and mid-1970s narrowed the referent for Generation X from Kappa's global generation to specific sets of primarily white, male, working-class British youth subcultures, from the spiffy mods and their rivals the rockers, to the more overtly negatonist punk subculture. The term was first used in a 1964 study of British youth by Jane Deverson. She was asked to interview teenagers at that time, and the study revealed a generation of teenagers who sleep together before they are married, were not taught to believe in God as much, dislike the Queen, and don't respect parents. Because of these controversial findings, the piece was deemed unsuitable for the magazine. Deverson, in an attempt to save her research, worked with Hollywood correspondent Charles Hamblett to create a book about the study. Hamblett decided to name it Generation X. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? That's the generation I was born into. Okay? So, my target audience, since I'm a videographer and video journalist, people that I'm trying to talk to primarily is people of my generation. People that were born no later than 1982. Okay? Some studies say 1983. But that's too I believe that's too far into the 80s. But it's basically the children that were born anytime, the child of a baby boomer, or a child that was born, anybody that is no younger than 28 right now. Okay, it's 2011, so no younger than 28. Or 29, whatever, because I'm 31 now. I was born in 1980, right on the beginning of the decade, in June. So it was like halfway into the year, but I was conceived in 1979, so I consider myself fully in the Generation X. My mother was born in 1948, and my father was born in 1924. Yes, they were 24 years apart. I know that. My father had one marriage under his belt already, and he didn't have any children with that union. And it was more or less a marriage of convenience. And anybody from Moneagle, Tennessee, you either don't know me or you do know me. But that town was just entirely too fucking small when I was living there. I was only there for about 5 months, and believe me, that was the longest 5 months ever, because I started to realize that it was a small town where everybody knew what you were up to and what you were doing. The whole thing was the cops were really laid back during that time about different things. They were trying to bust the meth labs, not the potheads. And so they basically wrote the potheads as just a bunch of slackers. And, forget about them. They're not really hurting anybody. They ain't breaking no crimes. Or they ain't causing no crimes. They ain't breaking no laws because they're so stoned they can't move. So forget it. We're going to go and bust the meth. Meth is a very dangerous drug. Many of my friends are recovering addicts to meth. And they have managed to stay clean and sober for as short as almost 2 years to as long as 8 years. And I am insanely proud to call them my friends, because they pulled themselves out of such god-awful chokehold of an addiction. And they're now working and doing their damnedest to not slip back to that. And you gotta understand, my generation was targeted as the apathetic generation. Okay? They wanted us to be labeled as the generation that just didn't give a fuck. Okay, you ever hear Eminem rap? One of his songs where he's like, I just don't give a fuck. He was basically groomed to sing that way, to promote that whole image of apathy. And, now I don't know if they're actually tailoring him to be this whole recovered person in order to be inspirational to the positive side of the propaganda. Because you gotta understand, there's positive propaganda and there's negative propaganda. What you gotta understand is the people that are controlling the positive and the negative are the same people. Okay? It's just, with the pyramid, there's a trickle-down effect. Okay? Or a branch-out effect, actually is better to describe it. And there's some groups that are involved in the negative part, which is, extremists such as the Westboro Church, the KKK, what the media wants you to think of the Masons as, just really evil influences. And then you've got the positive side, where it's the Christian right, the whole, let's all join hands and sing Kumbaya. That is left over from the hippie generation, which was a big propaganda in the 60s of let's just sit around, smoke weed, and just sit around and screw each other's brains out and not have any any give a shit about the consequences, and let's just do whatever we want. Let's just completely rebel against our parents and against the old establishment. And I say that with a small e instead of a big E, because when World War II ended and people returned to their homes and everything returned back to the woman stayed at home while the man went out and earned a paycheck, there was another revolution. Okay, we might not, and then there was the Korean War, and then there was Vietnam. And so our country has been constantly at war, ever since JFK got shot. Okay, he tried to stop it, they didn't like it, and they had him killed. Okay, make no mistake about it, it's not a conspiracy theory, because, theory has a negative connotation, okay? To quote Mel Gibson's character, Jerry, in the movie Conspiracy Theory, he says the best conspiracy theory can't be proven. Why? Because it's done that well. Okay, the conspiracy has been orchestrated so perfectly that there's no loopholes. Okay, but you gotta understand, the establishment, capital E establishment, they, are comprised of humans. And they're going to fuck up, and they're going to slip something, or they're going to slip something on purpose. Whatever their agenda is, they're going to promote it. And, I'm always encouraging people to be very, very skeptical of everything around them. Now, don't be paranoid, okay? I'm starting to get to the point where I'm not paranoid anymore. I'm not afraid. Whatever happens is going to happen. Whether I'm on the front line saying, no, don't you dare fucking do it, or I'm sitting in the sidelines going, I hope some people come up and show up today and they fight. One, because I'm too tired, I'm too stressed. I have too much personal stuff going on that's distracting me from what's really going on in the world. And I cannot engage myself fully like I want to. So I have to kind of speak from the whole thing of, I'm going to be there, to quote Jim Morrison, who was a mind control slave. I'm going to be there when the whole shit house goes up in flames. Well, he wasn't there literally. He's not here physically watching the whole shit house go up in flames. He's here spiritually. Okay? And, when he tried to break from it, and he moved to France to try to get away from it and clear his mind because he was starting to realize that his music was getting commercialized. If you ever watched the movie The Doors, they used the song Light My Fire for a fucking Chrysler commercial, and he lost it. He got so pissed off. Why? Because he wrote that, he collaborated with Manzarek and the other guitarist, Robbie Krieger. He collaborated with Krieger and Manzarek and came up with the song Light My Fire. Okay? He got pissed that nobody had asked him. And their excuse was, well, you were all boozing and drugging, dude. We couldn't get a hold of you. So we made an executive decision without you. Now, the whole thing of a band is it's kind of like a traveling family. Okay? You bond with the other members of your group. And Morrison was pissed off that they, he got pissed off that they basically sold out. And he left and went to France and he got killed. So. Or he was killed. He was murdered. And they tried to cover it up for years and they fucking can't. And then supposedly Pamela Corson committed suicide, as did, his supposed hand-fasted Wiccan wife. She stayed alive because she was a journalist. So she was able to help them keep tabs. So whoever killed him, and it was wrong. That's all I'm going to say.